Hello, Game Boys and Game Girls. I'm the Game Boy Guru, and welcome to my live stream. Tonight, we are going to be playing, or I'm going to be playing, Lightning Force. This is my favorite shoot 'em up of all time. This is actually my childhood copy that I've had since I was probably 14. Yeah, you can see it's been well loved, but still reasonably taken care of. And in fact, I'll show you my high scores that I wrote in the back as a kid there too. Oh yeah, I was one of those people. So, Lightning Force. Lightning Force, aka Thunder Force 4 for the Japanese market, is the rfgeneration.com Shmup Club Game of the Month. Shmup Club is a thing that I started back in June of 2018. We pick a different shoot 'em up every month. We play it. We talk about it, share strategy, post about our progress and all that stuff on the forum. High scores, of course. And so it's just a fun way to kind of engage with the genre and play more games like this. That leads, of course, to the Shoot the Core Cast podcast that I run. And that is a monthly podcast. So we play the game during the course of the month, and then beginning of the next month, Addicted from RF Generation and we podcast about it. So we'll be hopefully releasing soon the episode for our December pick or picks. We kind of did a showdown between two Atari 2600 proto shoot 'em ups, Demon Attack from iMagic and Spider Fighter by Activision. And those were fun games to play during the month. Real pick up and play, very simple mechanics. And I thought it'd be nice to do something that wasn't too taxing during December, since most people are busy for the holidays. So anyway, but we decided to kick things off in January in a major way with Lightning Force and Thunder Force 4. I don't have the equipment yet to play via any of my Genesis systems. I'm still waiting for my OSSC to come in the mail, and I need to get some cables and that. So I'm going to be playing the Sega Ages version that has been recently released on the Nintendo Switch. And one of the cool things about that is it emulates the Genesis version very well, but it also gives me access to both this original version that I played as a kid, or the Western version I played as a kid as Lightning Force, and the original Thunder Force 4, which is a little bit more difficult. And I've discovered that because I've been playing it. And so I'm going to kind of ease myself back in, because it's been a little while since I picked the game up. So I'm going to play Lightning Force this evening and see how far I can get. I'm going to probably play it on easy, just because that's where I played as a kid. I want to refamiliarize myself with the levels and hopefully try to complete the game the way that I did as a kid. Then I'll probably work my way up to normal, and then from there I may try to go either into hard mode on Lightning Force, or just go to normal on Thunder Force 4. We'll see how it goes over the course of the month. I'll be playing both, but decided to start with my childhood favorite. So let's jump in to Lightning Force. And let me move my TV back over to the Switch here so I can see what I'm doing. And one of the cool things about the Nintendo Switch version is they've got, of course I'm using the 8-bit Do SF30 pad, but they've got it set up so that Y, B, and A on the controller are A, B, and C from the original Genesis 3 button pad, and then the X button is the Sega Genesis start button, at least in this M2 game. And so it's kind of a nice way to keep it so the buttons are all very accessible. You don't have to remap anything, and that way select and start or plus and minus on the actual pad can be utilized for other functions, like changing other options, escaping out of one version of the game to move to something else, etc. But one of the cool things about Lightning Force is you can hold down A, B, and C and hit start. Oh, hold down A, B, and C and hit start and access the options menu. But like I said, I'm going to set mission level to easy. We're going to leave stock ship at 3. However, if you set it to 0, you actually get 99 lives. And I use this to learn the levels and beat the game as a kid. And so that was one of the things that I did. And I already see that Blossom has joined. Thank you for joining. And no, I'm not going to be playing on Mania because it's been too many years since I put serious time into this game. So I'm going to ease myself back in a little bit so I can find a groove. As much as Mania would be fun to punish myself and see how quickly I can die, I want to actually complete the game this month. Yeah, Mania 1 life clear. That sounds like a good time once I'm prepared for that. Yeah, I figured you were kidding. Blossom and I have been chatting about this game the last few days, so that's pretty cool. It's but yeah, this game is just so good. So I think what I'm gonna do is, I love the fact that you can select your stage order, and Thunder Force 3 did this as well. I think to slightly greater effect because you get to choose from, I think, 5 different levels, I want to say, in Thunder Force 3. And you can choose them in any order. And so depending on which level you get good at early, you can either start with that level to gain power-ups and hopefully get through it easily, or oh yes, Thunder Force 3 only allowed you to choose your starting stage, but it allows you to right, choose any order. Or Thunder Force 4 lets you choose any order of the 4. Thunder Force 3 only lets you choose from 5 stages which one you want to start with. And then I think, is it a round robin or does it randomize like a Psycho game? I don't remember for sure. It's been a little while since I played Thunder Force 3 as well. Either way, I think I'm going to go with round robin. Okay, good. So depending on where you choose your stage, then it's probably then either a clockwise or counterclockwise type of thing, an arbitrary order of stages then. And so wherever you start, it's whatever would have been next in the order. But I think I'm going to start with Strike because that stage, I know I have it down pat, and I know where the secret power-up is. This way I can start and get the blade weapon and the claw, or craw, I guess it is, and then get the 1-up that's there. And I know that by the time I reach the end of the stage, I will also have earned another 1-up or another extend. So then I'm going to go to Ruin next, because in Ruin I'll be able to get the snake weapon, and I'll be able to get the hunter weapon, which is arguably the best weapon in the game. Then I'll probably go to Dazer, because that's got a shield. And assuming that I can survive the end boss, who I've been learning playing the game the last couple of days is trickier than I remember. And then Air Raid. Air Raid's boss I generally don't have much problem with. It's the stage itself that can get a little hairy. Hopefully, since this is on easy and it's a game that I should still have some muscle memory for, I'll be able to get through it pretty easily. Blossom says, I like to go with the Siren first because, if I recall correctly, you start with a shield in that stage. Then, last of those 5 stages, the lava one also has a shield. Yeah, Air Raid stage is difficult, but the boss is relatively easy, and it's not a very difficult pattern to learn. So, pretty simple to get that going. So straight, ruin, dazer, and air raid. Whoa! One of the things I like about this using straight as the first stage, and it is the first stage by default if you don't pick an order, is that immediately you get the claw power up. You get, after the first few enemies, you get this blade weapon. Whoop, hit the wrong button to do that. And you also fight this amazing sort of water snake thing. And you get the railgun, which is another amazing weapon. And usually, it used to be that I was always able to take out the snake. But I'm not accomplishing that today, apparently. This thing is easy. You just let it shoot, or let it center its laser on you, and then move out of the way as soon as the laser sight goes away. Oh, and I missed the one-up. Doggone it. That's the danger of going for the freeway, is sometimes if you're not fast enough, you can miss that that one-up. But the freeway is an interesting weapon. It's not one that I ever really took to very much, but it's this missile volley, and it's a five-way missile volley, and it fires in the opposite of whatever direction you're moving. Let's see if we can get this extra claw here. Nice. Yeah, I would agree with that, Blossom. The straight boss can be difficult to learn because it has multiple attack vectors and does some funky things, and can be very aggressive too. You'll see here, I mean, this is like the first section where it's sort of hiding in the airship, but you find out very quickly that the main boss, when it comes out and starts attacking on its own, is very aggressive, and it's also can be difficult to hit at times because of the nature of its weak point. Its only vulnerable spot is this glowing orb right there, that blue orb at its base, right before that sort of swinging tentacle. Now, it's almost better to go after it with the standard gun versus the blade, because the blade, because of its size, doesn't always hit and contact very accurately. And you have to watch out for that tail because it can swing. It's going to shoot out the orb now. Now in the Japanese version, the orb is way faster and it moves a lot. It moves a lot more aggressively at you and moves further as well. You basically have to make a circle around it, where there I can just sort of lead it a little bit and then it'll go away. But the but here, or in the Japanese original version, the orb chases you further and goes faster. So you almost have to get out in front of it, sort of do a circle around it, and then and then double back. Whereas in this game, it's a whole lot less aggressive and less egregious, I'll say. Boom! And that is straight. Blade is really good for this stage because there are a number of enemies like those dudes, and there's the snake. Like those dudes that ride the platforms, that snake is great for these guys. So you can destroy those platforms quickly, and then the blade does more damage than the standard gun, so you can take these guys out a little bit faster. Whoa! Another blade there for some extra points. And I don't remember, I think you get the hunter toward the end of the stage. There's an extend. Another claw. The mid-boss, which is relatively easy. It's just a matter of... there we go. Oh, that was terrible timing. Terrible timing. That is why I need practice again. Yeah, I biffed that one for sure. Oh, and that one too. Good grief. Wow, that was bad. Here comes the boss, and this boss is not too difficult. Just have to, oh my gosh, destroy these. That's why I need to not use freeway when I'm... freeway is a weapon that you really have to get a little bit of finesse behind. And this boss is also easier when you have the craw, because it can bat away those bullets. Alright, thankfully here I will get another claw and a blade relatively quickly. Thank you. I love how much more powerful the blade is. And that guy takes a real beating before he'll go down. Whew! I gotta be careful because I sometimes will get caught by enemies from behind. There's another railgun. There's the shield. The shield sometimes moves a little faster in the Japanese version, and so it's not always as easy to go. And now here comes the snake guy, and this guy is annoying. He shoots these things out at you, and they will follow you. Now, if you don't kill, if you can't take them out, those things will follow you more aggressively in the Japanese version, and probably on harder difficulties here. But if you don't take out this guy before too long, he will eventually time out. Thankfully, in the in here, he's not too hard to destroy. These, whoa! So they catch me from behind and already burned 2 of my 3 hits from my shield. And there's my claw. Ah, and now my shield is gone. Shoot. Denjin, welcome to the stream. Thank you for coming in. Yeah, the Lightning and Thunder Force thing, I honestly don't know what the idea was. There's... I've read in the past that it had something to do with licensing. And I don't know if it's because Sega published Thunder Force 2 in America. And then Technosoft, I think, published 3 by themselves. But then Sega published this one. And so I don't know if it's that... because Technosoft had published the 3rd game themselves, that they retained the right to use the Thunder Force name in the West. I don't know for sure. But at any rate, I wasn't even really aware of the Thunder Force series when I bought this game. Because I bought my Genesis in 92, and of course this came out in 92. Really, I just saw an awesome looking cover and awesome looking graphics on the back, and it looked like a fun game, and so I bought it. And the rest is history. It quickly became a game that I obsessed over. Boy, this guy shoots a lot less missiles on this difficulty, and is definitely less egregious. Switching to Hunter here can be advantageous, because then you can just sort of give him the runaround and not have to worry about taking as much damage from those deals that follow you around. Try to stay away from his nose. There we go. Hey, Pondering Ghost, welcome. Brandon, welcome. And yes, awesome game indeed. Thunder Force 4, or in this instance, Lightning Force. Freeway. Get that back. And of course, always love the targets there that you can see following me around. I always try to just let them chase me and never stop long enough to do that. I think on the harder difficulties that becomes harder to do because there are more enemies that come at you in the meantime. Here on easy, it's just a matter of moving around enough to keep them off your scent, so to speak. Yeah, this level is, because of the tight space and the fact that your ship's hitbox is not especially small, can make this one a little bit more difficult. So you really have to memorize this one on all difficulty levels, because the enemy placement and number changes depending on which difficulty you're playing. So it's not just more enemies, but it also sort of changes where they're at. And then the speed trap section here at the second half of the level. Oh, yes, Blossom. Good point. Now, if I stay up here, and if I remember correctly, I get the blade. And then one of these areas in the speed trap, I think it's at the top. Later in the level, maybe, there's another one up. If I remember correctly, I could be mistaken. I could be remembering this wrong. There it is. Heck yeah. So before we go to the boss, let's catch up here. Mania. Okay, Blossom says he's seen a Mania 1cc, basically an intricate dance to dodge them. Yes. I would imagine the game is insane on Mania. And, yeah. Don't know who commented above. I can't scroll the chat up, but wonder how many people loved, back then, loved Thunder Force 3 and just never knew there was a sequel. Which is very true, because of the name, the nomenclature change in the West. I don't know. Mobile Suit Wannabe got dunked on. Hey, Red McKnight, welcome to the stream, dude. Thanks for coming out. So like I said, this boss is pretty easy. I'll use Blade. You just have to avoid these Rings o' Death, which move relatively slow. Switch to Railgun and go behind him, and just keep destroying the missiles that he's shooting out from behind. Eventually you'll knock off that, and then Snake works pretty well to dunk on the little head thing there. Switch back to Railgun again to kind of sneak in from behind. Easy boss to dispatch. Very easy. Ah, Thunder Spirits, yeah. I only recently picked that up. I would say within the last, like, 3 years. Oh, yes. Almost forgot about these guys that come and shoot at you big time. And then you gotta, on the battleship level here, you gotta take out all these thrusters. Boom. And then this, I'm not sure what you call this guy, this mech dude here. Oh yes, the lasers. Refresh my shield. And then go up here so I can take out all these little missile patches. And there are all my fellow ships. And I want to say those are mostly the Styx craft from Thunder Force 3. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Blossom, because I'm sure you would be able to see that a little bit more readily than I would. But I want to say those are the Styx ships. Oh, I always forget about those laser balls. Get rid of those cannons. There we go. Another crawl, another extend. Take out all these cannons here. Good use of the and then he goes nuts with the lasers, and then this guy comes out and is indestructible. Ah, thank you, Plundering. Yes, I thought it was the Styx there. And now here's where you get the upgrade from just the basic craw to the what's called the lightning sword, which I think is probably the impetus of the Lightning Force name. So you got that hatch on the top of the ship, And now every time there's a craw power-up, it'll be these orbs instead of those other deals. And if you let this charge, you can unleash an insane blast of destruction, which is just an awesome weapon. This stage can be a little bit difficult because there are a few areas where there are some tight spaces, and there's a couple of different paths you can take throughout the stage because of the fact that this one scrolls up and down. Oh, I forgot about those dudes. Thanks a lot. These guys are kind of a pain if you don't have good weapons. And I'm not using the hunter because I tend to like to conserve it for later stages, because I want to say it only shows up in the game maybe 3 times. So I'm not playing nearly as aggressively as I normally would. And I don't remember if I have a chance to get back the claw before the boss here. Not sure what the deal is with this mini boss who... Oh, there it is. Oh man! Well, I ruined that opportunity, didn't I? Oh yeah, Schmuppy Dog hanging out in the back. This boss isn't overly difficult, but it is, whoops. Of course, I say that and then instantly die. But it is one that you kind of have to know or memorize. Gosh darn it. I really am not playing my best. But, like I said, it's been a while since I actively played this game. It's my favorite of all time, but I don't pull it out that often because, you know, it's like I want to challenge myself with other things sometimes, and so I don't want to go too crazy with playing the same thing all the time. But I probably should pull it out more frequently. I will say that. Oh. Alright, hurry up, dude. Just die already. Oh, good grief. Okay. Yeah, I probably should use Hunter in that stage. I'm not going to continue. I'm going to start over because I want to try and tighten my approach here. I wouldn't feel any shame in continuing, especially since I'm playing easy, but yeah. Drake Tungsten, welcome to the stream. Thunder Force 2, yeah. Thunder Force 2 is quality. I think it gets bagged on a little bit because it was kind of the in-between from the first Thunder Force, which was all overhead stages, and Thunder Force 3, which I would say probably most people consider to be the best in the series. I personally think it's this one or Thunder Force 4. Yeah, that's No, Red. This is M2 did the Sega Ages version of this, and it's a digital download on the Switch. So I don't yet have my OSSC or any of the cables I need to hook up my Genesis stuff. And when I do, it'll probably be my JVC XI, because it has really, really good output quality. Polestar and Einhander. Oh, yes. Good choices, Pondering. Einhander is another favorite of mine. I love the soundtrack and the aesthetic in the game, and it was the only shoot 'em up that Squaresoft ever made, but they certainly did a good job with the one that they made. And obviously my favorite shooter is this. So I'll just say that right away. Alright, so let's see if this time I can get both the hidden freeway and the 1-up in this level. I think I'm going to up my speed to 75. I usually like to keep it at about 50%, because I find that to be easy enough to control most of the time without getting too fast and running into bullets and stuff. But I've become a little bit more of a speed guy in recent years, playing stuff like Gradius and that. Oh, you got to be kidding me! Well, that was not smart. Oh my gosh. Alright, so I'm going to reset. Losing 2 lives in the first minute and a half is very, very bad. R-Type. Yeah, good stuff. We actually played R-Type in the last June as the first game of the Shmup Club, and I did that on purpose because it's been so influential. Oh, Sprite Mix, hey, welcome to the stream. Thanks for coming in. Cinematic feel Einhander brought to the table. Yeah, you know, that's a good question, Pondering Ghost. Why did nobody ever recreate the cinematic feel that Einhander brought to the table? I don't know. And you're right. I mean, everything feels epic in the game. The soundtrack, the atmosphere, it's all very well done. Now, of course, Squaresoft, having sort of become an RPG company at that time, that was kind of probably a natural extension of what they were already doing with Final Fantasy VII and VIII and Xenogears and other things that they were doing. But yeah, I mean, the only other one that I can think of that is as epic as Einhander, or has a similar epic feel, would be another PlayStation shooter, which is Philosoma. That was an early game. It was a long box game, and it's one of those that was only ever released in long box form, as far as I know, at least in the US. It never got a jewel case issue later. Blossom, I would say R-Type Delta does have some cinematic feel to it. But I wouldn't say it's on the same level, though, as Einhander. Philosoma is more epic because it does something that no other game does. You know, there are games like Life Force or Abadox or Axelay that do multiple perspectives, Thunder Force 2. Philosoma takes that to the next level, and there are side-scrolling levels, there are vertical levels, there are levels like Galaxy Force or Space Harrier where you're flying into the screen shooting at things. There are levels that are side-scrolling, but it's sort of a three-quarter overhead view where your ship is sort of gliding on the ground. and then there's even a boss fight where you're flying, your craft is flying toward you, sort of away from the screen, and the boss is behind you, and you're firing your rear cannons at it like a railgun or what have you, trying to escape and avoid its stuff. And it uses multiple perspectives. It's not a fantastic game. It's a solid game that has some flaws and can be frustrating at times because of the large ship sprite and the large hitbox and some of that. But I do think it's worth playing. And I would agree, it does have good CG and solid voice acting. There's a lot of radio chatter that happens during the game, but it doesn't annoy me in the way that it does in Raiden 5 because it all fits in with the motif. It doesn't feel tacked on like it does in that game. Astabreed. That's one that I need to play. And now that it's on the Switch, I need to grab it. I was going to grab it on Steam, and I never did. And then I missed the short physical run of it on PS4. So I'm kind of hoping somebody will pick it up and do a physical on Switch. But in the meantime, I need to do that. Thing you dislike. Okay, Blossom dislikes about Thunder Force is the series did not prepare you for other shooters because you were not used to the idea of using bombs. That's a fair criticism. Now, I came to this later. I had already played games like Tiger Heli on the NES. I played a lot of Twin Cobra in the arcade and vertical shooters like that. What's another one? Silkworm in the arcade, and then on NES later, where the helicopter, if you choose that, you've got both an air attack and a ground attack. And so, yeah, I mean, if this is the first series that you've played, and then you go into other games that here's a bomb, and you don't know what, that's a thing, or that there's mechanics built around that, yeah, that probably would be frustrating. Eden's Aegis. That's a good game. I have, let's see, there was Eden's Aegis, and then there's another one by the same developer. They're related. They did Eden's Aegis, Eden's, what is it? I've got it installed, I just can't think of what it is. And then Green Wind. And yes, Blue Wish Resurrection is actually really good. Very good Dojin shoot 'em up for PC. Zero Divide Longbox has PS1, or for PS1 has a few levels of arcade phalanx in it. Oh, nice! Okay, now I'm going to have to go find me a Longbox copy of Zero Divide. Yes! Red, Raystorm on PS1. Actually, that was among the first shooters I bought when I got my PlayStation. In fact, I think Raystorm was the very first shoot 'em up I bought when I got my PlayStation, because I bought the PlayStation and I got Tekken 2 and Tekken 3. I bought Final Fantasy 7 and I bought Raystorm. That was my first batch of games for the system. Good stuff. lot of hours in the PlayStation. A lot of fond memories of my early 20s clocking way too many hours on my PlayStation. Oh, man! I did it again! That sucks. I was not prepared for that for some stupid reason. Even though I've played this hundreds of times, for some reason I biffed that. Oh, that's frustrating. Ah. Yeah, Ray Crisis is good, Pondering. I don't like it as well as... Oh, I missed both. Good grief. I am definitely out of practice. I don't like Ray Crisis as much as Ray Storm. I don't think it's as good. It's a little bit more... What's the word I'm looking for? It's a little esoteric in a way. Which is not a bad thing, but it's... I don't know. It's just a little... There are some spots where there's so much on screen, and it's not a bullet hell shoot 'em up, but there's so much on screen that it becomes difficult to tell what's going on. But not in a good way. Especially if you choose the ship that uses the homing missiles as its lock-on weapon. That gets nuts. That's actually fun to play with, but yeah, I would not consider that to be the best. I would consider that to be the least in the series, of the Ray series. I tend to think that Ray Force, or the first game in the series, and Ray Storm, the second game in the series, are almost neck and neck tied. I kind of vacillate from day to day as to which one I prefer. I really like the 2D art and aesthetic of Ray Force, and I love the soundtrack. I think that was right about the start of Zintada's great period in terms of their composition and their soundtracks. I mean, starting with right about Gekkerendan through right about Ray Crisis and G. Darius, or Darius, I guess, technically is the name, according to some stuff that I've seen. But that I think is Zintada's best period in terms of composition and soundtracks and that. And so those are the ones that I love the most, the soundtracks that I love the most. Snake. The music for this game is permanently tattooed on my consciousness. It is probably my favorite game soundtrack of all time, and I've told this story before, but I actually, when I was at my first sort of professional job, I kind of walked onto the IT department, and this was in the late 90s, and so we had a first generation single speed CD burner that I had access to, and was able to utilize periodically. And I had this thing where on my very first home computer that I owned, with my, that I paid for with my own money, I hooked up my Genesis Model 1 because of the headphone jack output, and recorded all the music to the game. And I made sure to beat the game first, because if you beat the game first in the options, the option menu, you get access to the what are called the omake, or the extra songs, and there are 10 extra songs in the game that were not used in different stages, but they're great compositions in their own right. So I recorded all these tracks onto my computer, and then because storage wasn't a thing back then, we didn't have thumb drives and all of that stuff, I had to compress those wave files down to low quality MP3s, because that's all we had access to at the time, and then put those on an iOmega, what was it? It wasn't the Jazz Drive, it was before that. It was the zip drive, 100 meg zip drive. And I put all the tracks on a couple of zip drives, and then took them to work, re-encoded them to WAV, and then burned them to a CD. And I made my own CD so that I could listen to that in my stereo of the soundtrack to this game. I loved it that much. And so that is my way too nerdy story about my love for this game's soundtrack. And yes, I realize that makes me a complete dork, but that's okay. And I still have that disc. And maybe here in a little bit, if I decide to take a break, I'll go and grab it and show it off. Alright, where's the snake? There's my shield. There's the snake. Yes, Pondering. The OST for this game is going to be on vinyl. I am super stoked about it. The only soundtracks I was nearly as stoked to get on vinyl were Shinobi 3 and Streets of Rage 2. Because I absolutely love the Streets of Rage 2 soundtrack. It is phenomenal. And Shinobi 3, I know everybody loves Yuzo Koshiro, and the soundtrack for Revenge of Shinobi is great. There's no denying that. But I played much more of Shinobi 3 because I thought it was a better, more well-balanced game than its predecessor. And so I... dodged those guys this time. So I played a lot more Shinobi 3, and I absolutely love that soundtrack. I think it's great. Definitely underrated in some ways compared to Revenge of Shinobi. But yes, the Thunder Force soundtrack, I will be there the second that pre-order opens up, and we'll be getting whatever the special limited press vinyl is, whatever it's a splatter or a multicolor or whatever it is. It's gonna be it's gonna be mine. I mean, the second it goes up for pre-order, I'm gonna be right there. Credit card, boom, pre-order. Yeah, recording video game tracks to tape. I did that with TV theme songs as well. Yeah, I was a big dork. I used to do that. I had a cassette tape with the theme song recordings of like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and stuff like that. Yeah, rail shooter. I would say Panzer Dragoon Orta is a rail shooter. I consider rail shooters like that to be, I use the term shmup adjacent. They're not shmups in this context, in the classic sense, or in kind of the modern bullet hell sense. But I would consider them related, in the same way that run and guns are generally related. Run and guns don't auto-scroll, but it's all blasting almost all the time. It's a lot of dodging and moving and avoiding enemy fire and enemy bullets and all that stuff, and not colliding or touching enemies, and so not strictly a shmup, but definitely a close cousin, I guess you could say. All right, let's see if I can make it through this guy with my weapons intact. I think I still have all 3 hits of my shield too, so I definitely need to gonna go and increase my speed here so that I can steer incredibly clear of the missile volleys. And then those pesky little shots that come out from the underside of this guy can get me. Whoa! It's a good thing I have a shield. That would have been bad. And that was bad too. Alright, get out of here. Yeah! Alright. Think you just found your next stream game, Red. Oh, this or Odomedius Excellent? Yes. You'll be happy to know, since you've been lobbying for it so long, that Odomedius Excellent is on the list for this year. You will have to wait for it, but it is on the list. So just know that we haven't been ignoring your request. But, you know, there are hundreds of shoot-'em-ups to play, and we want to make sure that we get good representation from all over the genre. When I reset the game, I don't think I set it back to... refresh the shield. I don't think I set it back to easy. So I'm actually playing on normal right now. Which is probably good, because I shouldn't be relying on all my muscle memory from easy for this. I should be trying to challenge myself a little bit at least. There we go. Past those pesky auto targets. Yeah, this is just such a good game. Hopefully the audio's good. No one's mentioned anything, so I'm assuming all is well, but I love the soundtrack in this game. I wanted to make sure I turned up the audio enough to make sure that you guys could hear the insanely good music. Most of you probably are already familiar with it, but for those that aren't or are less familiar with it, I wanted to make sure that it was that it got its due, because it's just so good. It's too good. Little bonus points there. Let's see here. I get the blade. I don't know if I actually got that. Whoa! Gonna blow my shield bonus here. One up. Alright, now the easy boss. Just avoid the slow purple rings o' death. And then come in behind with the railgun and blow away the missiles. And shoot that thing off. And then some railgun. Hit him from behind there. Little blade up front. And boom, he is done. Done dealing. And now comes the slightly more difficult section here with all these ships that shoot out at you. Oh, lost my shield. Oh, dodged that. I think I've... Oh! That was not cool. We got to get rid of these, or got to take out all these thrusters here. The other thing about this game is not only is the soundtrack excellent, but the music is insanely good, or the graphics are also insanely good. Oh, rats! I lost my snake too. That's gonna hurt in the next section, because the snake is usually much more helpful than the freeway, but the freeway will have to do. Oh, shoot! Now I lost my shield. Oh my gosh! I'm getting slaughtered here. I'm usually not quite so lousy at this. But man, today I'm struggling. Oh my gosh. Dude, I am just not playing well. Probably because I'm not used to the enemy placement and stuff in normal, since I played so much on easy as a kid. That's alright. I'll figure it out. I'll have the lightning sword. All right. Soul Blade's intro, yes. Still very impressive, I think. Even though the CG itself is dated, it's still fairly epic and impressive nonetheless. Ah, rats. Definitely got to relearn some of these enemy placements and locations, because I have lost some of that knowledge over time. It is definitely atrophied a little bit. Oh, no, I missed my chance to get the lightning sword. Oh, that is bogus. And my snake weapon. Good grief. Wow, I am just not playing well. Well, I'll just make it up next time. Oh. Oh, man. This is where I died last time, too. Wow. Well, that's disappointing. But that's okay. Oh. Red, the reason that it went from 3 to 5 is because I think the order I picked the stages, because you can select the order, I picked them out of order, and so I think the last stage I did was actually 3. So that's why it was like that. Sort of. Yeah, I mean, like you say, here when you go to select stages, if you don't choose, if you don't select an order, I'm trying to remember, it's Straight, Dazer, Air Raid, Ruin, I think, or Straight, Dazer. Yeah, I think it's Straight, Dazer, Ruin, Air Raid, or Air Raid, Ruin. And so since Air Raid is stage 3, that's probably why it was... Oh, really? Einhander, you've got the Einhander separate OST. Nice. I would love to have the actual OST CD of that, but I'm willing to guess that it's probably a little pricey these days, as are most individual release video game OSTs. I mean, even these specialty vinyls that are coming out, you know, you see they release for their cost, or you know, the price that they go for on the initial purchase, and then once they're all sold out, then of course they show up on eBay a few weeks later, and they're twice the price. So that's sort of like there's a pair of CDs that were done by Konami in the mid-90s. They're Dracula Battle Perfect Selection and Dracula Battle Perfect Selection 2. And they are essentially hard rock, heavy metal covers of Castlevania songs. And they're fantastic. And they kind of became famous because someone ripped them to MP3 format and put them out on the internet. And they showed up on the Castlevania Dungeon, which, as far as I know, is the longest running Castlevania themed website on the internet. Or at least the most prominent, longest running one. 678 Cisco, thank you for joining. Hey, congrats on finishing Monster Boy. Very nice. But those CDs, I don't think they probably got a big print run, but I want to say it was released by King Records, which is one of the big labels in Japan. But those go for insane amounts of money on eBay now. You know, they probably originally retailed for 2,200 yen or 1,800 yen or something like that, and now they are going for... Last time I looked, they were both over $100 for a complete copy. And that may or may not... And when I say complete, I mean the disc with the tray card and the sleeve. That may or may not include the spine card. So, anyway, wow. I would love to have those because those songs are excellent, but I'm not sure that I'll ever own them. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing. Straight, Ruin, Dazer, Air Raid. Alright, let's do this again and see if I can tighten up my game a little bit. See if I can get the freeway and the 1-up in this stage. Alright. Red gun. The voice samples in this game are so hopelessly distorted and terrible, but there's a certain charm to that, which is ridiculous, I know, but I still love them. Alright, let's see if I can get this guy out quickly here. Boom. Darius Alpha, nice! Yeah, freeway and 1-up. Yeah, Darius Alpha is an interesting beast. And we'll see if we can snag this extra craw. Boom! Alright. I love that you can hide under the water in this bottom layer of parallax. It's a neat effect. And I love how many layers of parallax there are in this stage. I mean, just look at how many different layers of water there are. It's just a really awesome technical feat that these guys, that Technosoft accomplished with this game. I mean, in some ways, the Genesis should not have been capable of what they did with it. And they really pushed this system and this game to the limits. And I absolutely love them for it. So yeah. I was mentioning earlier, but in the Japanese version, that orb, when it turns orange and starts to chase you, moves much faster and also chases you longer. So you basically have to, like, run a circle around it. Oh, I didn't do it fast enough. Man, that's annoying. Well, that's smarts. Just die already. Yeah, I'll have to definitely change up my strategy a little bit for that. To make sure I don't fall into that trap again. Going under the tail. Alright. Yeah. Yeah, the graphics and the designs in this game are just awesome. The mechs, all the scenery, everything is just really, really cool designs. And of course I'm already humming this music, because like I said, this music is tattooed on my brain. It's just insanely good. And I've listened to it far too many times. Mid-boss! Alright. Oh, really? Dude, that was just not cool. Man. Well, I kind of walked into that, so it's my own fault. Ah, bummer. There we go. Hi, Peaches. This is Peaches, everyone. This is one of my dogs. Oh, yeah, Super Mario RPG. That's one of those games I need to play. I didn't own a Super Nintendo until much later. Probably not until well into adulthood. And so, a lot of the Super Nintendo library I didn't have much experience with. Yes, Neo Geo CD games, Redbook Audio. When I finally get a Neo Geo CD, one of the first games I'm going to buy just for the soundtrack is Viewpoint. That is an amazing soundtrack. Absolutely love that. It's a good game too, but Viewpoint I will definitely have to have a copy of. Viewpoint is so good. I've got the Genesis version and I've got the PlayStation long box version, which has a different arranged soundtrack that's not as good as the original. They could have used the music in the game unless there was some sort of licensing issue or reason that they didn't. But it's disappointing that they didn't, because the soundtrack is awesome. So why they chose to do something different, I will never know. Just don't get it. Get out of here, dude. Oh! That was so terrible! Alright, I'm gonna not cheat, but I'm gonna start going easy mode and use the hunter because I cannot deal with many more deaths. Unfortunately, hunter is a little weak on this stage and for this enemy, so I really need to use the main weapon with a regular gun. Oh, that is disappointing. Oh, yes. Yeah, he times out if you don't take him out. Definitely going to avoid those guys. And I want to say there's some stuff coming behind me. Maybe. Nope. Yeah, Red, I would agree that the Genesis version sound is good. I actually like the Genesis soundtrack better than the arranged version on the PlayStation, just because I think it stays closer to the spirit of the original, even though it's more chiptune and, you know, doesn't have the real instrumentation of the original. It's a good interpretation of it based on what the Genesis is capable of. So it's not the same level of wizardry that Technosoft pulls off here with Thunder Force and several of their games, but it's a good soundtrack. I mean, it's solid stuff. So definitely still worth playing. Whoa! Good thing I had a... Alright. Time to go hunter quick and just kind of cheese this guy a little bit. There we go. Thunder Force Gold Pack 2. I still need that at some point. And yes, the Japanese version is harder. I started out playing that when I got this Switch version here the other day. And it is... enemies are more aggressive. That first boss on the straight level, the Gargoyle Driver, is more aggressive. And that orb is faster. That comes out of the base. So it's definitely a more difficult game. I don't know if I would say that the US version is easier in the strictest sense, if not slightly easier, and a little bit more balanced for I won't say casual play, but a little bit more balanced on the regular difficulty for a non-expert player, shall we say. So, it's brilliant either way, though, as far as I'm concerned. And I was not aware that there were a lot of differences between the two until more recently. I'm not sure why, but that just kind of escaped me. But then I've never owned an actual Genesis version of the game. Just the US version. Oh, that's right. I forgot about the extra claw down there. I'll get the extra blade here. A little 10,000 point bonus. And I took an unnecessary hit there, unfortunately. 1-up. Once again with the easy boss. This boss didn't take me hardly any time to learn the pattern. Alright. Now on to stage 5. There. Now I don't. Now I won't go into this without all my weapons in tow. I just won't have as many points. Shield refresh. Alright. Now you'll take out the helper ships. Get another squadron in here to push you back. Alright. Oh yes, Biohazard Battle is fantastic and great soundtrack. I love the weirdness of it and how moody and different it is. I just love that about it. Biohazard Battle is, I would say, underrated and quite a quality shoot 'em up coming from Sega, who was not known for shoot 'em up games. So hats off to them for releasing it in the first place. You know, I mean, they had published Thunder Force 2 in the West and all of that, but for actually developing one. Although apparently there's some speculation as to who actually developed Biohazard Battle, because it's not clear as to who that was, which is interesting because you would think that a game of that caliber people would want to take credit for, but apparently it's not abundantly clear whose fingerprints are all over it. So forget about these losers coming from behind me. Oh shoot, I just messed up my shield. Oh, you jerk! That is the second time that's happened. Good grief. Oh, man! That is so terrible! Dude! You were just running through my lives! You are a jerk! Man! That was bad. You. Oh, man. Well, there goes my better weapon. Oh, good grief. Alright. Concentrate. Not. Doing a great job here. Whoa! Forget about some of the specifics of this guy's pattern. Oh! That was bad. All right. I know you like to shoot out those lightning blasts. Oh! Oh, thank goodness. Wow. Hard to 1cc when streaming, yes. And sorry about the, what? Oh, I thought I beat him. I forgot about the final form. Oh, wow. That was bad. That was bad. Well, obviously I still have some practice that I need to get in on this game before I will get back to my former level of proficiency. Wow. Well, should I try one more or should I call it a night? What do you guys think? Crying that Sarah was playing Biohazard Battle, since the game is called Crying in Japan. Funny stuff. So what do you guys think? Should I give this another go, or should I be done for now? Red says I should let it go and try again tomorrow. Channel that bro geo power. That's a little bit of a podcast in joke that we need to get out there more. Try once more, okay? So that's one give up and one go again. Anybody else want to weigh in? Or have an opinion? I'm good either way. I just want to know if you guys want to keep watching me play or... Yeah, this is what happens if you don't move around and avoid the targets. Alright, I'll give it one more try. I'm going to up the speed a little bit so I can be a little bit more responsive here. Should probably get used to playing with a faster speed. That's one of the things I like about the game. You can tap the button and go 25% increments, or you can hold the button and actually adjust it more granularly. That's kind of a cool feature of the game at the time. I can't think of any other game that that allowed you to adjust your speed anywhere nearly that that specifically. And there's the dog. All right. Border down punishes you for being a poor player. Yeah, I've heard that it's very punitive in a way. I've not played Border Down yet, but it is on my list of games that I would like to get eventually. Although I think it's fairly expensive these days, no? Oh yeah, Gradius 5, humiliating if you're doing bad. Yes. You get to the... You get killed in the game and run out of lives, and it says things like, "You need more practice." It's like, thanks a lot. People like me, who are my own worst and harshest critic, You know, I don't need that additional kick in the teeth, you know what I mean? Oh well. I have an ever expensive growing list. Yes. Always. Unfortunately, my Dreamcast list is probably my largest and most expensive, primarily because a lot of the shmups came out in Japan or were aftermarket, and I didn't get in on them in time. And the two most expensive shmups in the U.S. for the Dreamcast are ones that I missed out on in its initial run. That being Gigawing 2 and Mars Matrix. So those two, of course, are quite expensive and very generally difficult to get a hold of. So unfortunately, those are probably going to be either games that I never buy or games that hurt my wallet severely when I eventually do buy them. So I haven't decided yet whether I'm gonna seriously pursue those or not. There we go. Avoided that trap of going underneath. Unfortunately, the blade weapon, because of its size, is more difficult to hit that orb with, so it can be a little bit more difficult to target. There we go. Oh, wow. Pondering, congrats on the basically complete Saturn Shmup library. I wish that I would have purchased more import Saturn shooters when I first bought my Saturn, because I bought my Saturn in, I want to say, 99, when they were dirt cheap. Shortly before either shortly before or shortly after the Dreamcast came out, I bought it used at a game store for $35. And right away, I went and bought Darius Gaiden and Galactic Attack, aka Ray Force or Layer Section, immediately, because there were the stores that were there had them. The used game stores that were there, at least one of them had those two games, or had one. Yeah, I think it was the same store that had. I did that before. I think it was the same store that had both games, if I'm not mistaken. Man, that was bogus. And so, oh man, I did that before, too! Good grief. This is just not my night. Oh. Seriously. And then it was only a few months later that I bought the Action Replay 4-in-1 cart, because the local shop had it, and they were only charging, I want to say, 30 or 35 bucks for it. And so oh man, the missile volley. You joker. Oh my gosh. I am not playing well. But, yeah, so after I got the Action Replay cart, I bought, Strikers 1945 2 through National Console support. That was my first import that I ever bought. And then later I got Dompatch or Dompachi, and then at some point after that I bought Cotton 2, disc only, unfortunately, which is still the copy that I have. And that game has become insane, so it's not likely that I'm going to be completing that or replacing that with a complete copy anytime soon. Anyway, yeah, and then I kind of went quiet. I didn't buy any more Japanese Saturn shmups. I think mostly because at the time, it wasn't long after that, in 2001, I moved, I got a different job, and then that only lasted a few months, and then I was broke and didn't have the money, and so I didn't buy very many games, and by that point, Saturn games were not plentiful in used game stores, and I didn't live anywhere near a used game store then anymore either, so I kind of missed out on a lot of the good deals that I might have otherwise in the... Oh, I missed that. That I may have otherwise in the early aughts. And so... But I found a handful of Saturn imports in the years since. When I was on a business trip for a training, I picked up Layer Section in North Carolina, in Charlotte, North Carolina, and then also at that same shop I picked up Capcom Generations Volume 1, which has, of course, 1942, 1943, and 1943 Kai. And then here 2 or 3 years ago, I picked up what was it? Macross Do You Remember Love? The 2-disc game. And then here in the last year or so, I've grabbed the Gradius Deluxe Pack. I bought Tsukiyo Godentai, aka Terra Diver. Thankfully, finally got that. That game used to be kind of expensive because, oh man, that game used to be kind of expensive because it was almost as, well, I won't say almost. It was highly lauded like Radiant Silvergun. So there was a few years in there where that one shot up in price. But it's common enough because it was printed more than once that it's gone back down. So I actually picked that one up very reasonably. It was only like 45 or 50 bucks. And I got a really clean copy from a distributor that works right out of Japan. So I was very happy about that. And that's a pretty sweet game. For fans of Ray Force, or the first Layer Section game, Galactic Attack, it's it's got a little bit of a lock-on mechanic. It's a little different than... Oh, that was dumb. It's a little bit different the way that it works from... well, that might have been my worst try yet. Probably because I'm talking too much. But yeah, a little bit of a lock-on mechanic, but it's different than Ray Force because it's not like two different planes of vision or view or whatever. There are sometimes enemies that come underneath of you, but you can also target enemies that are on your plane of view, and you have a sort of instead of just a targeting reticle that sits out in front of your ship, you create a targeting range or field out from your ship, and depending on which ship you choose, it creates that field, and then that gives you the ability to target the enemies. And so it's kind of a cool mechanic, and that's a game I want to explore more at some point. So, Dougal40, thanks for joining the stream. You're a little late because I'm probably gonna hang it up here pretty shortly, but you really pondering. You like Hyperduel more than Thunder Force? Yes, it is a mortgage payment to obtain. Is it Hyperduel or Blastwind that is incredibly short? And yes, Suki does have a bit of a cinematic feel to it. I wouldn't say it's as good or as much of a cinematic feel as either Philosoma or Einhander, but yeah, it's got a little bit of that. Yeah, Hyperduel or Blastwind. I can only choose one this year. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, see, and I've heard that Blastwind is just okay, and I don't know why it's so expensive. If it was it produced late in the Saturn's life, or was it just small production run numbers? I'm not sure why it's that and Hyperduel are so expensive. Because Thunder Force 5, I picked that one up here recently too. And actually, just in the mail today, I got the Sega Ages Saturn version of Fantasy Zone. Oh, dog. Driving me nuts. Here, I'm gonna pause for just a second. I'm gonna go grab that. Okay. So, yeah, I grabbed Fantasy Zone, again from the same Japanese distributor that I've been buying from, and that's a nice clean copy. I don't think it's got the spine card with it, unless he slid it into the manual. Oh! Nope, but warranty card, so that's pretty cool. But no, I told you guys that I would I would show you the CD that I made. I was telling the story earlier, for those who joined the stream later, that as a young adult, I hooked my Sega Genesis up to my PC at the time, and I recorded all the music from Lightning Force, including the Omake tracks that you unlock after you beat the game, and I made my own CD. And it was a laborious process because at that time I had to basically dump the tracks to MP3 and then or convert, you record them to WAV, then convert them to MP3 so that they would fit on a couple of zip disks, take them to the office, convert them back to WAV because you couldn't convert on the fly at that point to burn a disc. They had to be in WAV format, and then burn on a single speed CD ROM drive. And so this was my custom CD that I made back in the day. This was probably back in 98, maybe. And so, yeah, that's my custom CD that I used the Genesis emulator to take screenshots and make. And so I actually have track listing on the back. I'm only missing, because it was a 650 meg or a 74 minute CD, not the newer 80 minute standard. This was kind of the initial version, but it's just a regular CDR. But at the time, the sound test didn't have any of the names, so I just used information from the manual and created my own track list. Now, that some of the tracks are wrong because I matched up some of the level music and the names to the wrong songs, but I came up with my own names and stuff for all the tracks. So yeah, I was incredibly nerdy doing that. But the other thing I did wrong, and even though I've listened to this multiple times over the years in my various vehicles I've had and home stereos, I decided I wanted to boost the bass on the tracks. I didn't need to do that because Technosoft already had a lot of bass in the mix. And so the tracks sound a little bit distorted. But anyway, that's my that was my big project, complete with early Photoshop work there at the bottom with the font in flames there. So anyway, okay, low print for Technosoft titles, hence the prices. What was the CDR drive? Sound Blaster? I don't remember. It was an external SCSI burner, and it was one of those where it had its own disc tray, a removable disc tray. So instead of the tray that would kick out and then you would set the disc in and then hit the button, it was actually a tray that would kick out, and you would flip open a partial lid and then set the disc in, and then close the lid, and then insert that into the machine, and then at some point, as you would insert that, it would kind of grab it and pull it the rest of the way. I don't think it was a Creative or a Sound Blaster CD-ROM drive. It was a common computer component brand at that time. I just don't remember what it was, but it was on a dedicated computer that we had. Because I worked at a telemarketing agency, and so I was in charge of bringing in all the leads that we had, and so we would get them in all sorts of different formats. I managed the FTP server we had, so some clients would just FTP their leads to us. Some would send them on old formats, like we used to get 9-track reel-to-reel tape, and I would actually have to take these big reels and stick it into a machine, and then use an old computer to read those into the computer and copy that to a flat text file. We had the same thing with that same computer had an IBM 3480 cartridge external reader, a big metal box with a tape drive in it, and we used to occasionally get IBM 3480 and 3490 cartridges with names and numbers on them. And then sometimes we'd get floppy disks in the mail. Sometimes we'd get CDs in the mail. And so they came in all different forms. Sometimes I would have to log on to the vendor website and download them, which was actually ahead of its time. But occasionally when we got done, we would have to, or when we would go through and work a bunch of leads, we would have to go back and occasionally burn CDs to send to the client with finalized reports and data and all that, because not all of them wanted mounds of paper shipped to them in the mail in big boxes. Some of them just wanted the CDs so they could kind of print on demand, which again, back in 98, 99, that was ahead of its time. So anyway, yeah, so I used that single speed drive and burned myself some video game music and loved it. Not nerdy at all, just way ahead of my time. Well, thank you. I still say it was nerdy, but you know, that's just how I am, and I'm okay being nerdy, you know. What does it take to become a guest on Shoot the Corecast? Tell you what, come join us for a month of playing one of our games, and then come talk to it, and then hit me up, and maybe we'll talk about getting you on the cast. I mean, I would love to have guests, and we're talking about, you know, having some guests at some point, but definitely we would want to have, you know, whoever it is try and participate that month, or the month of the game that they'll be discussing on the podcast, if at all possible. So, you know, keep your eyes peeled for games that you like and that you want to play as I announce them, and you know, come join us and play along. And then, who knows? Maybe you can get a guest spot on the podcast. Alrighty, well, that's where I'm going to call it for tonight, guys. This has been fun. I'm probably going to have to do a little bit of solo play at work tomorrow on lunch and try and tighten up my game a little bit before I stream this game again. So I'm a little more adept and more proficient. You know, I'm not necessarily embarrassed because, like I said, I haven't seriously played this game in years, but I would like to be able to get a little farther. I don't necessarily need to get a 1cc, but I would like to at least get to stage 8 or 9 if I can. Because the last time I put a lot of time into it, or the last time I put a significant amount of time into it, I was reaching, you know, stage 8, stage 9 pretty quickly. So I don't think it'll take me that long to advance, but I'd like to get to the point where before I stream again, I can, before I stream this game again, I can get a little bit better. So who knows? Maybe I'll do better at lunch tomorrow, and then feel like I can do it again tomorrow night. We'll see. You put the heat in me, huh? Oh, that's all right. Actually, it's good because if I can play with distractions and some of that, then and improve my game, then that helps me just become a better player no matter what. So yeah, I don't mind, and I know that, you know, this is a more casual atmosphere. You know, I'm not playing specifically to try and 1cc. You know, I'm not like Aquas or Jamers or one of those guys where I'm streaming and trying to go for the 1cc at the same time or what have you. I'm just playing and having fun and you know, sharing one of my favorite games with you guys, and you know, hoping that you enjoy listening to me ramble on about it. Really, that's the thing, you know. So it's just like last night when I was streaming The Messenger, you know. I thought I made reasonably good progress for it being the first time I played, so, you know, I felt pretty good about it. Yes, Sprite, very good point. 1cc attempts and reading chat is not easy. You are 100% correct about that. which is probably why when Sarah plays, he has Day read the chat so that he can listen to her and respond and concentrate a little bit more on the game and try to juggle less. So, anyway. All right. Well, thanks so much, guys, for coming and watching the stream and chatting with me. It's been fun. It's definitely more interesting and more engaging than sitting here playing one-player games by myself. So thank you all so much for joining me and for chatting and just coming along with me for this streaming ride as I get started in doing all of this. I may try and stream again tomorrow. I don't know if it'll be this. It might be this. It might be the Messenger. Because those are going to be the games I'm focusing on. I am going to be getting. I'm waiting on my order of an OSSC to come in the mail. Once I get that and I decide what I'm going to do in terms of the cables and stuff I'm going to use, because I haven't quite decided yet whether I'm going to go SCART cables or if I'm going to try to go more of the component cable route, like the retro RGB, or is that right? Retro RGB. Whoever makes the component cables for Sega Genesis and Super NES, because of course those come with pigtails for other systems, and so I could realistically do Saturn with the right pigtail. And there's an adapter for the PlayStation 1, which would be great, because then I could open that up. Yes, HD Retrovision, thank you. And Fast Striker, that's another one I could stream. I've got the Switch hooked up through the capture card now, but I could very easily move that over to the PlayStation 4 and hook that up instead. So yeah, I'll think about that. I would also like to maybe stream Ketsui some. Yes, Pondering. I actually did have a conversation with Voltar. He was trying to steer me away from SCART cables because he said that so many of them are poorly wired and aren't sufficiently made to handle the load of using an upscaler and things like that. And so he said a lot of them can damage consoles if they're not OEM cables or very well manufactured. So my problem is it's hard to justify spending. It's easier to justify spending the $62 plus shipping and all that for the Sega Genesis Model 2 cables, because I can use that with a Genesis Model 2. I can use that with my JVC XI that I've got up here, and then with the pigtails I can use it with the Saturn and the PlayStation 1. So that's easier to justify the cost. What's harder to justify the cost is the Super NES cables, because I don't think there are any pigtails that I can use with that specifically. And the N64, you have to RGB mod it before those cables work on an N64. And then on the GameCube, they'll work natively with the PAL GameCube because it supports RGB from the standard AV port, whereas RGB is only available in the NTSC US GameCube from the digital port, because there was no SCART standard here in the United States. So, but for the GameCube, I'm probably going to go with the Eon GCHD. But either way, I need to find a way to get Super Nintendo working, because A, there are shmups I want to play and other games I'd like to stream. Plus, obviously, with my whole Game Boy motif, I want to start streaming Game Boy games and capturing Game Boy footage. So I need to I need to find a solution for that fairly soon, because I haven't been able to make any more Game Boy videos, because the 2 games I've got in the hopper need Super Game Boy support. And so I got to be able to use my Super Nintendo to record those. Splitter to stream having problems with HDCP. Refresh my memory. What is HDCP? I'm not sure what that means right off the top of my head. I've probably read it before, but it's not coming to mind. Is that like some sort of video standard, or what is that? Because I've also been thinking about getting a retro tank. Oh, copyright protection, yes. Okay, yes, that makes sense. Yeah, see, and I've got an Elgato HD60 Pro. That's the capture card that I bought from my computer. So I literally have the switch hooked up to its input, and then the output to the TV. And it does a passive pass-through for that. And so that's how I can play this relatively lag-free through the capture card, because it essentially just acts like a coupler for a pair of HDMI cables, but then, you know, is able to feed the signal in through and you know, use it here in OBS or what have you. So I'm not sure if the Elgato is able to get around HDCP, or if I just haven't run into a source that has that I otherwise couldn't stream. I mean, I haven't tried things like PS3 or 360 or PS4 yet, but I know there are people streaming them, so I'm assuming that those things work. So you have stuff nobody is doing. Well, there you go. Nothing wrong with that, you know, as long as you can support the equipment and the stuff that you're using. That's cool. All right, well, I think I'm going to cut it off here, guys. Again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for chatting with me and you know, cheering me on a little bit while I'm playing this game, and just hanging out. And like I said, maybe I'll be back tomorrow night, and if so, it'll probably be either Lightning Force or it'll be the Messenger again. So, but as I like to end all my videos with, thank you for watching, thank you for playing, and game on.